Hi gamers, here I am for another tie list, this time for the Final Fantasy franchise. I love the Final Fantasy franchise, but I only started playing in 2012, and it was the Final Fantasy 13 for the PlayStation 3. I'm going to do a tie list only for the games in the main series, and the order that I played. Of course, that I must exclude Final Fantasy 11 and 14, because I never played them, and those are games to play online. Like I said, Final Fantasy XIII was the first Final Fantasy, and I like it a lot. Many consider this game the black sheep of the franchise, but personally, I like it very much, and it was the game that made me love the Final Fantasy franchise. I finished the game 2 times in my PlayStation 3 and 1 in my PC. I love the fighting game system because it is very simple, and the characters. I already finished all Final Fantasies from the main series, and Lightning is by far my favorite character. So for me, it belongs to the great class. Now, the second one I played was Final Fantasy IX, and I love it. In my opinion, it's the Final Fantasy with the best music. And I also love the characters, Zidane, Garnet, Steiner. The story, everything was perfect in this game. It's one of my favorite games ever, and it belongs to the Masterclass category, without a doubt. Now, Final Fantasy VIII. I like Final Fantasy VIII, but in my opinion wasn't even near the quality of Final Fantasy IX. I think that the characters don't have a lot in common with each other, and the main character is a little soulless. But that's my opinion, of course. I'm not saying the game is better or worse, because better or worse is always a matter of personal opinion. You're never going to see me in this channel saying this game is a 9, this game is a 7, and this one is a 8. No. I just like to point what I like and what I think there are the strong points and the weak points in the game. But it's always my personal opinion, it's not a fact. It's just an opinion. I think Final Fantasy VIII is still a great game, as almost every Final Fantasy game. So I'm going to put here. Next, I play Final Fantasy VII. I don't know if it was my expectations were too high or because I didn't catch the 1997 hype when the game was released and everything in the game was new. I like the game, but in my opinion, Final Fantasy IX is much better. I like almost every character, Cloud, Tifa, Iris, Spirit. The story was amazing and everything was great, but I expect better. So I'm going to put here, because in my opinion it's a little better than Final Fantasy XIII. Next, I start playing from the beginning, Final Fantasy 1 and 2, for my PlayStation Portable. I love Final Fantasy 1, the game design and the different types of jobs, warrior, monk, thief, white, black and red maids, was all very well done. I prefer Final Fantasy 1 over 2. I think probably 2 is the weakest from the series. In my opinion, of course. It didn't add nothing relevant from Final Fantasy 1. And the story is a little weak. So I'm going to put Final Fantasy 1 here and 2 here. Then my next stop was Final Fantasy 3, this time in my Nintendo DS. I like the dual screen because the touchscreen was practical and functional. The port was very well done and I like it. Probably it's not as good as Final Fantasy 1, but much better than Final Fantasy 2. Then I play Final Fantasy 4, 5 and 6 in the Game Boy Advance. Final Fantasy 4, for me, it was one of the best. I love the main character, Cecil. He's a Dark Knight and the captain of the Red Wings, an elite Air Force unit for the Kingdom of Baron. Zemus make a wonderful main villain. I love this game so much that I finished at least 3 or 4 times. In my opinion, it's one of the best in the franchise. So I'm going to put in the Masterclass category, but behind Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy V, in my opinion, was good, but not even close to Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy V, we have more freedom to customize the characters through job systems, but I didn't like the story that much. But again, it's my opinion, it's not a fact. So I'm going to put Here. Then I played Final Fantasy VI, and I wasn't ready for that. This game is so good, a truly masterpiece. For me, it's by far the best Final Fantasy. And at this point, I never thought it was possible to like a Final Fantasy more than Final Fantasy IX. But I was wrong. Final Fantasy VI is not only my favorite Final Fantasy, but one of my favorite RPGs ever, along with Chrono Trigger and Grandy 2. The game has 14 characters, and I love them all. The battle system is simple but good, and the story is my favorite in any Final Fantasy game. The world, the bosses, especially the last boss, everything is great in this game, and in my humble opinion, is one of the greatest video games ever made. So, it is first place, without a doubt. Last, I played Final Fantasy X, 12, and 15. 10 I played in my PlayStation 3, and was the last Final Fantasy with the old school gameplay and the random enemies encounter. I didn't like the Blitzball games, but it was the only thing that I didn't like it in the game. I completely love the characters, the story, the world. Tidus and Yuna make a cute couple, and the supporting characters are also very good. And in some ways, this was the conclusion of the first 10 Final Fantasies. It was the last old school Final Fantasy, and is my third favorite after 6 and 9. So, of course, I'm going to put here. Now, Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy XII was completely different from previous games. It was the first entry in the main Final Fantasy series, not to include the random encounters. Instead, enemies are visible in the world and we may choose to fight or to avoid them. The battle system was a bit confusing because it was so different from the previous games, but after a short period of adaptation, this was undoubted one of the games that I most love in the franchise. Good characters, comedy, story, bosses, and everything we can expect from a Final Fantasy. This game belongs without a doubt in the Masterclass category. But I put him behind 10 because in my opinion Final Fantasy X was a little better. Now, the last Final Fantasy I played, also the last Final Fantasy released from the main series, Final Fantasy XV. In my opinion, the story could be a little better, but everything else is excellent. Gameplay, visuals, the battle system, also in real time. Many people didn't like the game because it's so different from the other games in the franchise, but is a modern and different Final Fantasy from the previous ones, and I completely love it. The parallel missions, the main missions, the wonderful characters, the interaction between four good friends. I did a road trip when I was young with three friends, and seeing four friends travel in the car, the fuel ran out, and they have to push the car to stop and take pictures. In many ways, these games remind me of that trip. And overall, the game is very good. I could not expect better from a modern Final Fantasy. It's possible my top 5 game from the main series and another masterpiece game. So, that's it. Now for this list you can see why I love Final Fantasy. Almost half of the games in this list are in the masterpiece class. So that's it. If you like the video, I have more tier list videos in my channel so you can check those too. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.